And then who cares in the end? It's just us having a good time, right?
Episode 5. So I tell you what, we'll start the episode, and as I'm saying it, you guys will be live reaction to it. Okay, so welcome back to episode 5 of our podcast. No idea yet. With me today we have Freddie.
Hello.
And Johnny.
Hello there.
And today we will be discussing the royal family. And sort of the monarchy and things if we got, and we might dabble into a little bit of celebrity culture if we got time. But so as is the way we're doing this at the moment, is this is the first time that these guys have heard that this is today's topic. So let's get some initial thoughts out there. Let's go to Johnny. What's your initial thoughts on the royal family?
My only hopes is that the person I work with called Christine, she has watched all The Crown, and she knows all the names, she knows everything that they've done, she's followed them her whole life, and is just proper keen on the royals, and it's like, oh man, why are you here now? My initial thoughts are, I know, I had a younger stepbrother who was very anti-royal, and then I've had a friend who was kind of like, just more looked them up. And I know that it's part of like, they own loads of land, which builds revenue for the country, which goes straight back into the country, as well as creating tourism and stuff like that. The Queen herself doesn't really have a huge amount of power. Any law that's passed has to go through her, but she always says yes, so it's really more of a formality. I think most of it is more for like, I think the cost of what it costs their lives is more than it is the negative of what it is for the UK. I don't know that for certain, but for the Queen, she'll never retire. She's like going to be in her 90s and she's still going across the world doing diplomatic stuff.
She is in her 90s, yeah.
Yeah, they go all across the world doing loads of charities, diplomatic work. I mean, it's kind of like, although for a lot of people it's a token royal thing, they make loads of, connections with other countries and help things along. So I definitely, for me, I'd say I'm pro-royal, but I don't know a huge amount, but I know that they do generate income, how much they do use themselves. I don't know for definite, but I assume that, the positives outweigh the negatives. And there's I think
we're going to have to call this episode Some Idea so far, rather than No Idea. That was impressive. I think that's
all I know.
That's a good
I'm done.
Foundation. How about you, Fred? That's it.
Okay, finish the podcast.
Knowledge from last episode. Pent-up animal knowledge has been transferred into royal knowledge, and it's just been squared up. Go on, Fred. What's your take on that?
Johnny actually knows quite a lot of things.
I only know the basic income of the Queen every year. What she gets back to.
And recently she had to start paying income tax in 2005, I think. That was on the wheel, Michael McIntyre, and it was like, what did she do recently? And it was start paying income tax.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
She doesn't. Does she have a passport? I mean, like, passport says it's certified by the Queen, that you're a citizen of her empire.
I think she doesn't have a driving license either, right? She can just drive any car.
She's a bad man.
Yeah.
She does love driving. Yeah.
Well,
sorry, Fred. So initial thoughts on the royal family as they stand today.
I have quite a good basis for my knowledge, to be fair. I've seen all of Suits, so I know who Meghan Markle is. And I recently just finished Bridgerton, which is 100% factually accurate. Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I was in Norwich for a year interning. Arts Centre, the Norwich Arts Centre or something, had a display on about Fiji, and the Queen went to Fiji and did some stuff in Fiji at some point, maybe in the 1970s, ? And then, like the next week, I couldn't even go to that part of the town because the Queen came to visit. And that's pretty cool, isn't it? So far, let's think. She went to Fiji. Meghan Markle was in Suits. And Bridgerton was pretty sick. So I think I feel like
you cover the bases there, Fred. I think that's it.
Yeah.
That's a great way. I think so. One thing that maybe you guys didn't touch on too much. I mean, I know, Johnny, you said you've met some people who are very pro and very anti-royal. I think it can be quite a polarizing topic, right? Sometimes some people really, really love them, and some people really dislike them. Why do you think that might be? Just in case, in terms of
misinformation, people not knowing anything, just. With anything, isn't it? You hear a certain part of news, which may be true, it may not be true, and then you just go all it, and then from there on out, you just focus on that, echo chamber kind of stuff, or just the fact of like, you hear one bad thing, you're like, that's really bad. That's, why did the Queen only just start paying income tax? I mean, we've been missing out all her income tax since then. She's not paying into the whatever, and you snowball. But I guess with the other things that people just like, I just like there being a monarchy because she's on our coins, and that's just quite nice. So,
yeah. I mean, I'm currently living in London right now. This is at time of recording. It's the 20th of January. There's some killer corona going on, and the streets are totally empty. So at night time, there's not really much to do other than go for a bit of a walk. And it's not too far for me to get to the centre of London. And blow me down with a feather duster. There's so many souvenir shops. It's all closed, but it's just like the most expensive streets. There's still all these souvenir shops that all have the Queen or faces of the Queen and flags and stuff with Buckingham Palace and etc. etc. So I feel like the royal family is just a huge. It's an England thing, right? And so already it's
brand UK, right? It's very much brand UK. It's which always surprised. I don't know about you guys. It's always surprised me going abroad how good brand UK is. Like people are always really happy to hear that you're from the UK, and you're like, do you not know? Like,
did we colonise you?
Aren't we the bad guys? But no, apparently people bloody love us. So yeah,
giver of national holidays, Independence Days, isn't it? Like, it's the fact that because you've got something that's so for the people outside England, and a lot of people in England are pretty racist. I'm wondering if because the foreigners, inverted commas, like the Queen and that kind of thing, does that polarize people too? Because it seems so much that it's something that we sell to people rather than is something that we have for ourselves. I mean, last point I'm going to make of this is that someone, if they have a big British flag outside their house, it's not really someone that you're good.
The George is the worst, but yeah, unless it's the World Cup, in which case you maybe
it's actually who keeps their St George's flags up after the World Cup is you kind of know where the racists are.
Yeah, the bigger and shinier the worse. Yeah.
So I just wondered if that polarizes more because it's a selling point. It's not something that we it's like
I think that's an interesting one. I think one of the things that this is just speaking from my experience. One of the things that Americans really love about it is the history of it, and that the fact that it's got such. I mean, in my only my limited experience, but they often love things that are like the American tourists when they come to the UK, they say, this building's older than our country. Kind of that's always like, oh my god, kind of thing. So I apologize to any Americans listening who are offended by my gross generalization of your view, but yeah, history I think might be a key factor.
I was gonna say because my mum has a Jacobean, which is just like a big chest type thing, I don't even know what it is. It's a Jacobean. That's all I know it as, and it's like I think it's 350 years old. It's kind of something which passed down in the family, and it's like I don't know how old it is now, but all of an extra 20 years maybe. And it was I remember being something like it's older than Canada and it's nearly as old as America. That kind of thought of like something in your house, which is just ridiculous. And I think the same thing. People's like, oh, that's nice. And I think it's like one of those monarchies which is still successful. Like it's still one of the few which is still going, which has an impact. So I think the biggest thing is I feel a lot of people just think, oh, that's nice. Oh, there's an older woman and she's got a crown. Everyone likes that idea. She doesn't do anything. It's not bad. So therefore it's good. And I feel countries just like the idea.
Benign. So therefore,
it's just a nice little like, like when you get a logo on like a nice item, you're like, oh, cool, look, it's a little logo. It doesn't do anything.
Logo, it's the Queen's face.
On this coin, that's it. She's just like UK's logo.
Well, like you said about misinformation, though, is just that, I don't actually know much about it, but it's very easy to just have a polar conversation about it. And having the history, I didn't realise how little I knew of British history anyway. I guess I just didn't really pay attention in school for that. Because, again, I have a lot of problems with England's education system, and I don't think it properly educates us. And then I was talking to a friend who's not from Europe, and she was like, so how many monarchs have you had? Like 6? And I was like, let me just get up the horrible histories song of all the kings and queens, which is a banger. If any of our listeners haven't heard it, please look up horrible history song. And it's like 30 something, like William, Henry, Stephen, Henry, Richard, John, Henry, again, and more Henry, John, and it goes all the way through to now. It's like, wow, we have such a history.
Yeah, I think
It's like 1,000 years now, isn't it? So.
Yeah, because like it's with family in Canada, and like going there, their museum, and like some of the, it's like 150 years old. Well, Canada's older than that. Obviously, the native people are, and they have a horrible history there. But it is a case of it's so new as a country and as a first world kind. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to. People were there before,
I know.
how westernized. It's so new how colonized
that's
it was.
The point I was trying to make about literally. I think we're in the same boat. The point I was trying to make about the history and how Americans like it. I felt like halfway through, I was like, "Am I massively insulting all of America right now?" But no, I know what you mean.
Yeah, but we went to this thing, and it was like going to this. We may go to a castle, for instance, and a bit of history or whatever, and it's like, oh, cool, this has got so much history. We went to something which was kind of like frontier kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, you look at these old stuff, they're still like bicycles, but they were really old bicycles, which are like over 100 years old, and like the buildings like over 100 years old. So that was their like thick history, and it's, and we went to Victoria in Canada, and there was like this cathedral, like, oh, should we go see the cathedral or not? Looked on TripAdvisor, and it was like, if you've ever been to Europe, this is a very mild like kind of, and it's funny because I saw some pictures like, oh yeah, it's totally just like one you'd see down the street. And like in England alone, you can go to some huge like spired cathedrals, or not cathedral, what do you call it? Yeah, cathedral, I don't know. And it's just yeah, but like a standard church on the side of the road with a steeple, and it's like that's what it was. So we have loads of them, whereas other countries you don't have stuff made out of stone necessarily. Like in America, a lot of stuff is you got no castles, you got no things like that, because everything was built a newer fashion, which is quicker, easier, more cost-effective, building out timber rather than stone.
Yeah, we don't get a massive rabbit hole on that, but you just reminded me of something really quite funny. When we were in China, we drove away to this like sort of giant Buddha thing one day, and we were with some German friends of ours, and one of them he looked like quite visibly angry, and we were sort of asking, why. He was like, oh, I just googled this, like we read the little plaque about this giant Buddha thing. Do you want to have a guess at what year it was built?
I'm assuming now it's like 2005.
It was like 2008, yeah. We were in 2015. It was like, this was built in 2008, and it's like, what? What? It made look historic, but yeah, obviously.
When I was in Rome recently, like, so usually in England, I mean, even now, again, I said I'm in London, and you walk past some cool buildings that has on it like 1802 and like 1736, or a pub had a plaque that said that it technically been standing but just rebuilt over time for over 400, 500 years or something crazy. So fair, I think I'm fairly used to that kind of level. Then I'm in Rome. Now, you walk along just a random old street, and there's a fountain that's been there for 1,000 years. And it's like, oh, like, all right, fair. And it's not even like a big important fountain, maybe.
I think there's some Egyptians listening to this who are just laughing.
Only 1,000?
1,000 tried 5, yeah. And then we got Stonehenge. We got Stonehenge over here. So.
I went past that recently. Yeah. No, we went to a restaurant, and they were like, "Oh, do you want to go see the cellar?" And I was like, "Well, sure, I'll go see anything." And we went down, and the cellar was like hidden.
You'd be the easiest kid to kidnap ever. Can I come see my son? Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got that curiosity, and something about a cat has a good time with curiosity, something like that. And the cellar was like partially bricked up, because if they had allowed the full cellar to be usable, they'd have to report it to like the Rome history police people, and it's like a special archaeological site because it backs onto the amphitheater where Julius was killed or something. Like, and they say that the owner of the restaurant like bricked up part of it so that it's only a small space down the bottom, so that it's not like a historical area or something. I can't remember. There's a loophole. It's just like, I was just there, and I was like, Caesar was killed near where I'm standing. They're like, yeah, pretty close. I was like, what?
I love if it was just a brick wall where they just decided they're going to make this up to get the tourism and the ability. How can we do that? That's a real ingenuity, I think, if they managed that. But yeah.
Well, the only reason we were allowed down is because I was with someone who was friends with the owner. So actually, maybe it was a really, really secret thing, but I'm
really
special.
Niche, really. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. So we're actually going to touch on one thing. So I've got an "Am I the Arsehole" story for you as well. Okay. So this is an "Am I the Arsehole?" So it starts off here. It says, my good friend Jeffrey Epstein and I were off one day. Either like yeah, goes on about his inability to sweat and how he doesn't remember photos being taken with him on upstairs and things. See where I'm going with this at all? Both looking very blank.
I get you.
Cool.
So am I the asshole, or am I being really slow here?
There was no. It was a very joke that landed really well. It was no. I'm going on the Prince Andrew thing. I thought we touched on that while we were on the royal family.
So I've just realised upon editing this is not very clear. So just to clarify, the Prince Andrew scandal, which was all came out in 2019. In his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein. This is what I'm referencing here. It's not an Am I the Arsehole, sorry. I've left it in for continuity for the episode. So I hope that clarifies things. Anyway, back to the episode.
I haven't watched the show, but Alistair has. You know more about the royals than I do.
No, I haven't seen it. I saw the interview. Have you seen the Prince Andrew interview?
No, I haven't. That's the thing. You're just one of those things. This is the misinformation bit of, oh, well, I saw it on, ITV Morning. They showed a small snippet of an interview, and that's where my opinion came from. And that's the misinformation. You're not going to the source. You're getting secondhand information. And although, to be honest, I assume.
Well, all the information about that interview would have been absolutely right because it was a train wreck from start to finish.
Yeah,
it was hilarious to watch, and it's well worth a watch if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, but that's what I think is. That's probably not the best example, but that's where a lot of things people get it from. Or somebody who's like, you know what, like the general kind of like. They live in a nicer house than me. Why do they deserve to be in it? That's not fair. And then, you're not looking into anything more than that, which if it's based on that, then fair enough. If you don't like that wage gap, what do you call it? Wealth gap, really. Yeah. But yeah, carry on.
I feel like if you're going to mention the royal family, it was quite an amusing one. Don't have any new insight on it whatsoever. Just he was a pretty terrible dude. But that kind of ties into actually the question half of this episode is, I want to get you guys' thoughts on the future of the monarchy. What the future of the British monarchy, what they actually, if they're going to be around in the future, if we think, again, this is all just going to be conjecture, but it's going to be a bit of research-based conjecture, hopefully. So yeah, just look up, obviously, forgetting more or less the history of it, just looking up if people think they are going to be around and in what form that will kind of take, potentially.
So can we give...
But yeah, and anything else you guys wanted to add before on the pre...
I want us to guess what we're going to find before, because
that'd be fun. So what are your initial thoughts on the future of the British monarchy?
Like, I can't see. I feel like they've got themselves in a very comfortable position where there's not really much to be outraged by, if you know what I mean. Like, I can't.
Well, watch the interview with Prince Andrew, and then we'll see.
that also shows my ignorance. But that, like, you don't. I mean, Trump recently is in the news for various reasons and is now no longer in power. Obviously, he wasn't a monarch, but our monarchy is just so soft, it feels, unless I'm missing something huge here in a big old, they're actually lizards type deal. But I can't see any reason why they wouldn't continue unless there's an issue with offspring not being raised well or not being raised happily, part of the royal family, and so they start bailing, kind of like
that kind of happens all the time.
Yeah. Harry and Meghan obviously kind of did bail, right? I think that was in the news at some point. They kind of
that's pretty big.
So that I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's an interesting one. But Johnny, anything you want to add?
Freddie was saying something, and I was really gonna stem off. But it was about the Trump thing, but more of like misinformation of like, although just clearly all the cards are stacked up factually against Trump, and it's really amazing how anybody does vote for him. But the thing people fail to, our media, how it comes to us, is so heavily filtered. That's not me defending him in any way, but it's the fact that 75 million people voted for him. That's more than our entire population voted for that guy, and it was a close call in the votes. I think he only got 78 million, or I don't know. I don't know the numbers. Biden, so he definitely won fair. But it's a thing of like, all we see is how bad of a guy he is, yet still 75 million people. And it must be the same thing of like, you get the 1%, which are the ridiculous people. But yeah, our media must just show us the worst side of him, whereas American media just must not be the same, that people still think it's a good shout to vote for him.
I think, again, if you just got all your information from like Fox News, then you would think he was doing really well.
Yeah. But it's...
Watch TV in America, though. You've watched TV in America. It's
adverts.
It's just adverts, and the way they talk to you. I mean, news is is like an
Easy.
action sequence. I swear. What channel I was tuning into it was like I was watching the trailer for Born Identity. Like it was just like they could say anything they want to. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess because obviously when it's international news, it's different. But I think so much of like everyone's pretty polarized in England against Trump, which is fair enough. I don't see why you wouldn't be. But it's a thing of we treat it like the news we get as an objective truth about Trump. Yet somehow 75. Surely there's still going to be some subjectivity toward it, isn't it? Because there's two ways to present information, isn't there? You hide certain things, you show whatever, and it's just I think it's mad that 75 million people voted for him, and it's not like it was he got no votes. It was like no, he got a huge amount, and that's just mad, just mad.
I think you could have the same argument for Brexit, for example. If you just chat to people who thought Brexit was a terrible idea all the time, you would not understand why anyone voted for it. But then obviously,
stuff,
I
think it's because we only get the bad news. We never get any of the good news. Everyone on media is always complaining rather than saying, "Oh, why so good?" And that's not me thinking that he's misunderstood and he is good, because I don't think he is at all. It's just funny that it's kind of like 75 million people is a lot. I guess it's the same with Brexit, isn't it?
But then I assumed, were you going to tie this back to Alice's question, like our media doesn't say bad things about the monarchs?
No, because like listen to stuff like the Crown, especially the Crown. Geez, media like probably hammering them in. I mean, they're scrutinised all the time. Like one of the reasons why Harry left was because, well, I say this, you don't know, it's the media of his mum died and the media went all in at them. I think I know of, and that was one of the reasons he just didn't like the media coverage, kind of thing, and they didn't like how they did. I don't know, but yeah, so I guess media affects it, but yeah, I guess you could say there's not much bad about the royals except fierce gossip. It's not anything like, in damning evidence. It's more just being like, oh, you'll never guess what they did, but not really a case of we don't like the royals. It's more like we like them enough to want to know their gossip.
I feel like it's interesting how it is. I think it's more akin to celebrity culture now than it is to like certainly politics.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of something we can definitely kind of delve into, regroup, and I look forward to discussing this further. So yeah, signing off for now. I will see you in a few moments / a week. Welcome back. We've had a week. We have done a bit of research, and so we're going to talk about mainly around the future of the royal family and where it's headed, because I think that's quite a contentious and interesting topic to talk about. But let's go for some things that we didn't know, things that we've learned. We'll go for Freddie. What are some things that you have learned about you didn't know yet, and now you do?
Oh, well, I mean, I started off way too general and went with monarchs and the whole world. So I've had a whole rabbit hole of different monarchies around the world, and I've also then tried to focus it back onto Britain. Would you like kind of general monarchs around the world thing, or we're just sticking with Britain to start off?
We'll stick with the UK royal family for now, just to get the ball rolling on that. Obviously, we can branch out. I don't mind. But.
Okay, cool. So everyone has an opinion, as it turns out. Newspapers have so many, like 55% of people like Diana and 13% of people like Camilla, and I don't know where they get this from. Do they ask people in the street? Do they just randomly ask people? I don't know. But the general stuff I found is that the royal family gets money, and that money is called the sovereign grant, right? So it's actually not that much if you don't include security. If you don't include security, it's like 42 million, which is not so much considering like a defense budget of like $1 billion. And recently it's been higher, like 76 million. But the estimate is that if you add security, it kind of bumps it to 350 million. So I don't know what like gold-plated berets the security are wearing, but that's something I was interested in, like the money, where it goes. And then I also found out that even though loads of people hate Prince Charles, he did have like an organic farm for a while that he was really proud of. But I don't think
he has some Greta Thunberg vibes.
Yeah,
that was
really, yeah, really strange. So I found out a lot of just money stuff really about Britain, because that's everyone just gets nitpicky about how much money they're worth and how much they pay and how much they like. The Queen voluntarily pays tax, as it turns out, as does Prince Charles. So I don't know. It's just people get nitpicky about the money, and it's difficult, like they say, to pull apart if they provide more than they cost. Like, I mean, people come and spend 22.5 billion in the UK, but is it because of the Queen? Or is it just because we've got some cool rocks that have been around called Stonehenge? Don't know.
All right.
Well-
So you're from the south. There's things in the
Yeah.
north as well. Not rocky.
Hadrian's
Maybe in
Wall.
Scotland, but it's just like.
Well, I think the most important economic factor for this that crops up in my extensive research was that Legoland brings in more money than Windsor Castle. Because they both have to do quite close to each other, so it's a great comparison.
So good.
Really do, but yeah. But obviously, a lot of people, I think the tourism for it is a thing, but I do think that the whole kind of brand UK and the whole like we were saying last week, how they're sort of mascots, as it were, but just quite expensive mascots perhaps. But yeah, Johnny, anything you'd like to add to this?
So I also went into them because I looked at something I said is that they bring in money, and my question to myself was, do they bring more income than expense? And from the figures, as you said, Freddie, it's like you got to take everything with a pinch of salt because it depends on how you actually determine what money they brought in. So this is from an article in 2019. Actually, I went through a few different ones, and I think the last thing was 2018 they did like stuff on. So in 2018, they cost 165 million pounds of taxpayers' money, but apparently they brought in 595 million. So part that would be tourism, and there's like, how much can you say it's based on that? I guess you could, maybe it's related to like the shops, loads of like London shops with like the Queen's face on them. But apparently they brought in 18 times more than the Belgian royal family and 29 times more than the Spanish. They also cost a lot more. And apparently in the past 5 years, they've brought in 2.8 billion. But again, pinch of salt because it's hard to really quantify tourism. But the biggest things is the Crown Estate, which is their biggest earner, and they're one of the biggest landowners in the UK. Their property is valued at 12 billion. And in 2018, they paid 329 million into the taxpayers' pot, effectively. And that was just from the land that they own. So that's something I did say about their property owned. So at least we know that, in a year, they can bring over 300 million minimum just from owning land.
Would you like a quick fun fact that I forgot to say? I don't know who came up with it or why they came up with it, but apparently the royal family are not allowed to play Monopoly. Someone said in 2008 that they're not allowed to play Monopoly. I don't know if that's a law or if that's just a family rule, but
I like it's just just Parliament and like, you know what we're gonna do? Yeah, we can do it. Let's get through the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Royals can't play Monopoly anymore. And you can see like some bootleg Monopoly. They have like round shady corners in Windsor Castle. They're just like, oh, get it out.
Well, we saw this. This is that's what research always just going in my head now. Apparently, when the Queen Mother died, they released her her record collection, which is quite a sort of undercover thing. But apparently, it was a lot of her musical taste was influenced by her growing up in Jamaica. So she was really into like Bob Marley and reggae and all that sort of thing. And this guy called Mitch Ben, he made this like comedy song about the Queen Mother like skunking around the palace in a big Rasta hat when everyone goes up. It was quite funny. So,
that's awesome.
And speaking of, I checked out your Horrible Histories song. I hadn't heard that actually. There were the Henry William.
So good.
Yeah, I'd recommend. We'll post a link in the description of the podcast. But yeah. So to expand a bit on what we were talking about there, I think one thing that I've also just sort of asked friends about this week, a big point of contention obviously was the whole Diana and Prince Charles thing, which again, fun thing, I don't know, obviously this is very, very common knowledge for anyone who's a bit older than us, but the fact that she got divorced before she died, I didn't even know that. I don't know if you know.
So there's conspiracies, isn't there, about it? And like, where the Queen didn't like Diana, so they paid to get
all sorts of things, yeah. But I think one thing that obviously was fairly commonly understood is that she was like being hounded by the paparazzi in a way that was heavy, and as obviously in a longer term led to Harry and Meghan now sort of bowing out. And I think that's kind of again touching on the sort of celebrity culture we were talking about last week, saying about how it's all very well being a celebrity, but these people literally like Truman Show style born into it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it? Yeah, look at
in terms of the toll on them, as it were, on them as people. What do you kind of think of that?
Yeah, most of the stuff I was reading was, it's just sifting through different papers saying who does and doesn't like a certain couple or certain person in the monarchy, and like people in the monarchy I'd never even heard of, that I didn't give two sticks about. Like, I just didn't care, and there's very little actual fact. They don't seem to do much that's very interesting.
Just a family. I mean, like, I remember it was my sister lives in Canada. She said this tabloid like magazine, and it was something like it was like secret baby from Prince William and whatever, and like just complete fiction, not even close to anything. It was just like, it's not even, somebody just made it up because they're in a different country and they know they can get away with it. It's like, yeah, it's just that celebrity culture. And yeah, learning about Harry and his life just being like, saying like on his mother's funeral, he had to walk really far behind the hearse, and he was being watched by, what was it, like, how was it, 2 billion people watched us, something stupid like that, like the funeral. And for him as a kid, he had to walk behind his mum's car as she just recently died, and there is crowds watching you do everything, and you're like one of the most televised things on TV. And it's like, for a kid, and just his whole life has been media. And then him with Meghan, it was like a paparazzi helicopter came over his house to like find out stuff about him, and it's like, you just can't live. Oh, I can see why they left. Jeez. And I guess
put funding into making like a fake. I don't know. You'd probably need to pay like sex doll people. I'm not really sure who's really good at making live dolls, and just have like some sort of fake you doll that you just have someone paid to just.
Really wasn't sure you were going with that then, Fred.
Oh yeah, that's right. I keep keeping on your toes, and then you just put your fake sex doll you in the back of a car and just let someone drive around with it, and you just.
And then they crash, and it's a huge thing.
Yeah, and then you get to fake.
I just love that you've gone for rather than like Madame Tussauds or anything else that you've gone for. Walk around with a surprised expression on your face. Like,
how do you know that they're not just all sex dolls in Madame Tussauds? Eh? I mean, I've never been. I don't know.
I've never been to fair. It's quite expensive, so it wouldn't surprise me.
I think Johnny's been. Johnny, you've been.
I have been to Madame Tussauds. Yeah, it was good. It was really funny because there's a little like, do you know museums that get little videos on TV? And it was what's he called? Chatty Man. Alan Carr. And it was him like having this video of him getting his doll made, like how many hairs, they put thousands of, like tens of thousands of hairs in, everything's so like tailor-made. And his wax doll was terrible. It looked so bad. And he had this whole like spiel and like 5-minute video of him being proper stoned. It's like, it looked so bad. There were so many better ones. And it was in Blackpool as well. And it was like, oh yeah, it's like Blackpool's doing of Alan Carr. They did him dirty. What can I say? Oh, that's really funny though.
It's brilliant.
I wonder if people just have better faces than others. But yeah, so like I'm trying to think what else I've got about British.
Yeah. Do you kind of think that this the Meghan and Harry thing leaving, is that kind of an omen for things to come in the royal family? Because obviously, if the young people aren't going to stick around, then obviously the future of it is not looking great. But obviously, then you've got William and Kate being far more involved.
It's happened before, hasn't it? That people have left the royal family because they wanted normal lives, or because they wanted to marry somebody, obviously, or whatever. So, like, I think it's just, you can assume that Harry and Kate, they've got 3 kids. I mean, like, Will and Kate. For Harry, it's just a case of like, well, not like he's going to be any proper royalty anyway, so to speak, more than just a figure. And it's kind of like, so yeah. So why have all the aggro when you're not? Yeah.
I was just thinking about it because I went down a whole rabbit hole about the Vatican, right? Basically, I'm not going to talk about it now, but maybe after, and how is the Vatican kind of things like a company. And I was thinking, like, if the monarchy that we had was kind of like a company, and the kids were kind of brought up more brainwashed, like they should do it, it's their duty. Like, don't you kind of feel like they haven't been brought up like that? Otherwise, they'd be more keen. I mean, maybe I just think it's too easy to brainwash a kid, but they don't seem like they've been too brainwashed into thinking that's exactly what they should be doing. They should be rising up to take the gauntlet for the rest of the country.
I guess it's probably because they also know, like, well, it's just everyone's going to be looking at me and I'm not able to actually do anything. Yeah, you're just kind of like a model, aren't you?
You said that was one thing that I sort of looked at a little bit. It's kind of interesting. Obviously, if and when Prince Charles becomes king, because obviously the government could sort of get together and then have it so that they get rid of him if they really needed to, but they'd have to have very good reason to do so. But if he does, then he actually is a lot more politically inclined than his mother, than Queen Elizabeth, and so that would obviously cause a lot more tension, because obviously at the moment, like you say, it's not a big problem, because the Queen just is very kind of passive and is the figurehead that doesn't really impart any sort of will on the politically any sort of political clout. But if the King did, obviously, then everyone would say, well, what right do you have to actually say this? You're just because you happen to be born in this woman's womb instead of this woman, you suddenly get power like that. That's not really what the democracy in this country is built on. So,
because
it's not what it stands for now. But yeah,
the question you asked of where's the monarchy going, like, will it ever end? Looking into a bit of like in some polls, again, as Freddie said, like who you asking? 76% of people said they're just happy for the monarchy to carry on, and it's kind of, they don't really have any influence. Like, they are a figurehead and nothing more than that. It's just kind of a show. The Queen opens up stuff for Parliament, and then she they tell her, we're going to do this, and it's like, cool, go ahead. But other than they bring too much in to really get rid of him. They're not really do anything bad. But yeah, what happens is they start swinging the weight around. I just don't think they'd be able to do anything about it if they wanted. And one thing of like, is like, would you overthrow the monarchy? And there's nothing to overthrow. Like, if they started swinging their weight around, Parliament would be like, right, we'll just put some things through, and now they're not the monarchy anymore. Simple as that.
Well, like, okay, this is maybe I've committed a huge research fallacy, and I'll have any degree I have revoked. But I found when I was looking at it that there isn't a modern method of removing a monarch in the UK, and that they don't have a way to do it. And I just read that and was like, cool, and I wrote it down in my book and didn't look into it more. Do you guys think it is possible to remove them?
The thing I saw was just that
they did with them. No,
yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, like, so the Queen, like, she owns 2 private properties. Most of it is just national property anyway, like the castle, Buckingham Palace and things like that. And all that Parliament would do is just effectively change their status. So it'd be like, yeah, they're just now like a really rich family in the UK or something like that. I don't know. I guess they'd still be private property owners with their crown estate and stuff. I guess the biggest thing
that they could do it.
I think it'd be a formality. So it'd be like, now we don't ask you every time we pass a law. Now you don't have to do. They'd probably even do a speech. But yeah, so I just don't think it would be like changing someone from Mr. to Doctor kind of thing. It's like, yeah, or
Doctor
to Mr.
Who enforces it? What I'm getting is, because I'm just thinking, right, if they just said tomorrow they're arresting the Queen and they arrested her, I mean, is anyone going to actually do anything? No. But then I was thinking, if they said, right, you to the guards, right, arrest her, and would they have that weird kind of, the social human can't do things because not the right person's telling me to do it? Like, I just feel like if they said, right, we're going to change it, who would it be? What would it be? Boris Johnson says, right, we're going to change it, and everyone's like, no, or yes. Like, I just don't see how it works.
Yeah, it's like what is it like? What happens if Trump doesn't want to leave the Oval Office? And it's like, well, yeah, who actually enforces that stuff? Like, what happens when somebody says no? Like Charles goes like, you know what? No, you're not allowed to pass that law. And you're like, no, say yes. That's what you're meant to do. No, I'm not gonna. We're still gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna ask my mates. They're all gonna agree with me, and we're just gonna not ask you anymore. Okay.
That's what happens with like companies, right? Private companies. Let's say Nestle or something. So it's like, we're gonna take this water from this that is gonna like drown. It's gonna kill this village. It's gonna take all the water from this village, and then they just do it. Right?
There's no one to represent.
No one to stop them. They just do it. I mean, I think is it Nestle that had their own private army so they could go do some stuff?
I think
in
so,
Africa?
Yeah.
They just made an army. They just made one. So I just wonder how it would work in the British monarchy. But
Nestle's bad. You were saying about like, Nestle and stuff. It's like when the guy who bought over, was it HIV treatment? And then he increased the price by 700%. And it was like, wait, no, you can't do that. That's immoral. And that's a horrible thing to do because people are dying and they need that medication. And it's like, it's my company. Who's going to stop me? And it's like, this guy's a dick. And there's nothing we can do because he's a private company.
I thought you were going to talk about McAfee then. You guys have seen the McAfee, the computer software
Yeah.
guy?
He's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, he went mad. went to an island, bought an island, made an army or something.
Yeah, like proper like motivational, like attack everybody, anarchy thing.
We'll bring it back a little bit. I think we'll go on, Johnny, if you want.
I was going to say, apparently the monarchy ended in 1649 with Charles I, because he started swinging around his weight too much and he ended up getting beheaded. And then the Parliament then reinstated the monarchy in 1660, which I like. They did it because they were like, well, let's still get a figurehead.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think we had a very short republic under Cromwell, obviously, which didn't really go very well. I think,
as you can see in the Horrible Histories song.
Again, yeah. But I mean, it's so long ago. I don't really think that's like a very, tangible or good argument for or against the monarchy carrying on now. I think the main thing, obviously, the thing that will, assuming she's not a lizard person in a human skin, assuming she will die at some point, and then the Queen dying will obviously be a very big kind of turning point will Charles be Charles the Lost is the big question, I guess.
I also like
people don't really like him at all. I think the whole Diana factor thing, people really don't like him. And the thing about skipping him, you can, that could happen, but then it's like, I don't know if that. We've got the issues like we said about the younger generations not really wanting to do it as much. If Harry and Meghan have sort of set the tone for that. I don't know. I think it's quite a fascinating one, really. But
yeah, and
we
the
don't
thing for whether they should carry on, I don't know. Like apparently the Queen is patron of over 600 charities, and it's kind of like, do you know if you made David Attenborough like a Duke of Wales or something like that? I don't know the terms. Would anyone stop him being that? And suddenly it's like, well, he gets a load more money, but he keeps doing what he's doing, and he's doing loads of good for the planet. And it's like, I guess, why should we stop it? He brings in more money than he costs. He's got a really big title, and he's got a big fancy house, but he still does loads of work, more or less 7 days a week, going around doing loads of good. And it's like, well, is there any reason to stop it? I guess not. So I feel that's probably the monarchy, as long as no one does anything stupid. But then I could imagine if like Prince Charles acts up, they'd be like, right, go down to Prince William and be like, right, you'll be king now. We're going to dethrone him because he's a bad fit, I don't know.
They can do that. Like I said, they did it in 1936. I think it was King Edward briefly was King anyway, went on to marry some American divorcee, and that therefore they didn't want him as a king. Like I say, it's all a bit. I think there is a lot of sort of pomp and ceremony and all sorts of tradition that is very heavily, obviously, very very deeply embedded. One thing that came up actually, I saw briefly, which is, have you guys heard of Poundbury?
Say that again.
Poundbury, as in the place.
Poundbury.
Sounds very English, like an American person made up an English place.
Pound.
We're going to call it, what's their currency called? The Poundbury. But no, it's basically it's Charles's. Prince Charles kind of made it as a city, and it's kind of his vision of what a city could be like. And people, it's sort of, as obviously people like it, people don't dislike it. And the sort of the history of the pub dates back 6 years, which obviously people joke about. Well, 6 years at the time they wrote that, probably longer now. But yeah, I think he does. It's he has actually done some things that, like, apparently they stopped the building of a $6 billion block of flats in Chelsea, and so they have actually done some things, small scale obviously, but in the big picture, small things, but that could, I don't know, pave the way for Charles wanting to do some bigger things if he did become king, which again, you don't know. But as we were just saying, I think there would be enough things in place to stop him from doing anything.
Because I guess as well, it depends on how you choose to do it. Because it's like, is he doing it as the head of a charity, or is he doing it as the King of England? And I guess you could be like, oh, this is just complete. I'm not doing it as a king. This is just I'm the head of the charity, and we're choosing to do this. Not related to me being a king. I mean, you could always say everything's related to you being a king, but I feel like there's a loopholes.
Yeah, I think so. From my super quick extra research I just did now, because I was like, God damn, how do you remove the monarchy if you wanted to? So then the ones that did it recently were Greece and Bulgaria.
Ooh.
So how did Greece do it? Military. Just like military grouped together, and they had a coup, and they jumped over the monarchy and forced them to stop being monarchs. Just stop.
Hey, stop it!
Yeah. And Bulgaria effectively did a Brexit. They had a referendum, but it also was fueled by some guy called Tsar Simeon, who was in exile and came back and rallied everyone into having a referendum, kind of Brexit style. So what would you reckon if England was going to stop this monarchy? It's got to be. We got to do another Brexit, haven't we?
Yeah, but
He would just love a good. I mean, that would be that would just be the cherry on the cake if they did another Brexit.
Do you know what? I think it'd actually cost way too much to do it because we've got so much is ingrained. Like our national anthem is based on the monarchy. Like money, it says.
We have to pay someone to write a new national anthem. Guys, costs are going to rack up.
No, you get free ones on the internet. You just got to choose those ones without legal stuff.
But do you like currency? Everything says, by declaration of the Queen, this is granted as £10. Passports, like all currency would have to be brought in and redone out again. It's just everywhere. Everything what makes
the foundation of Brexit on these blue passports. Without the blue passport, I think if they had said we'll give everyone blue passports, do you want Brexit? They could have done that and forget all the rest of the Brexit stuff. Would be fine. But it was
so good. The colour before blue. Everyone's got blue. What a cool purple. Mauve.
Okay, so we've got to change all the money. And I've just had a quick Google. How much did it cost to change the £1 coin?
It's like 6 billion. And once the Queen had it, I think to change all the currency from something else, it would be to change them all from the Queen's head to Prince Charles's head would cost 6 billion. I think.
Oh, actually, yeah, that's a point of the fact of you do that every time you change a monarch. So I guess just getting rid of him. Yeah. No,
but they work. It's in circulation, isn't it? It just stays in circulation until they pop out. They don't have to change them all overnight. But we did with the pound, didn't we? With the pound, we took them out of circulation.
Oh yeah, fully, yeah.
So many fake ones.
Well, they do it all the time with there's the new £20 notes that came out not that long ago. I don't know. I think long-term future. I think moving towards a more cashless society is definitely going to be a thing. But
that's true.
That's true.
But it changed
other countries that are doing that.
Yeah.
Quick thing positive that apparently some people have is that they think that if we remove the monarchy in the UK, it will reduce over time classism.
I
don't know.
That's a better point. I can get. There's
still classisms in true democracies.
It's just it'd be less posh. Just be rich.
Less pomp.
People.
That's it. Or just be people at the top who don't have hoity-toity, got no plums in their mouth. Also, apparently, after World War II, some colonies declared independence but chose the Commonwealth with the Queen as a figurehead. So it's just a ceremonial thing, but it's still being we don't want to be part of you anymore, but we still like the Queen. We'll keep her.
Yeah, that is kind of it. I think the brand UK thing. Again, bringing back to that, people just like the Queen, and people just really like what she's done, what she's done for. Like the fact that she's sticking out and doing her job so well at her age, and that she's going to be doing it. She's made a vow to God. She takes that very seriously. She's going to be doing it until she dies. I think it's a interesting point in terms of the future of that, and how that is going to be a turning point in terms of where the country goes. So if you listen to this episode in the future, post the post the Queen dying, and who knows what's going on.
And seeing what
she's going to outlive Charles. Sure.
So I had a friend who worked in a print press factory place in London, and this was so they made so when the royal wedding was on, they created the wedding invites, and when they did it, it was you got called in and you weren't allowed to tell anyone. Had to sign NDAs, so you can't tell anyone you're doing the wedding certificate invitations because this is need to know basis, and they locked them down until it was kind of done. Apparently for the Queen's death as well, the company said, it doesn't matter wherever you are in the world, we will pay to get you back. We'll pay whatever flight, so you immediately come back, and we'll lock down and we'll still do all the invites for the Queen's funeral. And then effectively, if it takes 24 hours, we'll just lock you in 24 hours until it's all done, which just sounds mad. Apparently,
in 24 hours.
Mismanagement of the company, though, apparently, and in the sense of they think they're a bit too hoity-toity, and so they don't take lesser jobs. So they actually make no money, and they pay the people poorly. But never know names.
Fair enough. Very interesting. Well, I have a bunch of stuff to talk about other monarchies. Unfortunately, I kind of went down a rabbit hole. Yeah. Well, I started off with looking at just general other monarchies. So a monarch, let's just start off. A monarchy is generally having one bloke or woman who has inherited the rule. That's the general rule of having a monarchy. Anyway, so there's loads of exceptions. Like Andorra has two. Malaysia has an elected monarch. People claiming certain monarchies and they're not existing anymore, which is, fun fact, you're called a pretender if you do that. So that's a lot of fun stuff about other people's monarchies. And then I went down the kind of finding out how much Britain screwed over India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh when they had the partition of India, because all these old monarchies that still existed but had no power, inverted commas, suddenly kind of reappeared and were fighting for power again. And 10 to 20 million people were, inverted commas, displaced, i.e. there was one of the biggest refugee crises of the time, like that ever happened. Oh my God. So that'd be an interesting point, that when you remove a monarchy or you remove a power from somewhere, obviously you have huge displacement of people and powers. And I don't know how you're going to edit this all together, because now I'm going to talk about the Vatican, which is hilarious. Oh my God. So for a quick roundup for our listeners, I found out the Vatican basically exists because Mussolini made a nice deal with the Pope. And he basically said, right, you can exist, you can have some money, and you just got to stay out of politics and wars and stuff. And the Pope was like, cool. So, right, I don't know how much you guys know about the Pope and the Vatican.
I mean, I know he's meant to be in service till he dies, and the Queen's seen like 3 popes by now, because one, someone in the case of like one pope decided to retire, and it's like, you're not meant to retire as a pope, it's meant to be a lifelong thing, but oh well.
That was, yeah.
Okay. Well, did you know
Francis and Benedict, right? And then, yeah. No, I was Francis and Benedict. I think Benedict's the new one. He's obviously the super cool, people like him kind of pope. And then the one before him was a complete arsehole, as I understand.
Okay, so here's my question. Who's the king of the Vatican? There is a king.
Oh, I think I've heard this. I have no idea, though.
Okay.
I think it is David Attenborough, right?
It is David Attenborough, yes.
Is the Queen the patron of the King of the Vatican?
So there's four parts to it, right? There's the king, there's the Pope, there are 2 people, and then there's the city, the Vatican City, and then there's the Holy See, which is the chair. So basically, the chair is actually the thing that has the power. The chair is technically a legal corporate person in international law. It's the chair. That's
Game of Thrones vibes here, yeah.
Yeah,
was
exactly.
it Fred? Did you get this off the CPG Grey video? Because he did a great video on this.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Well, if you've seen this, yeah.
Yeah, I know. But I haven't not quite a while, but yeah, it's cool.
Okay, great video. I watched it today while I was waiting, I was researching stuff. So, well, the big surprise is that the king has absolute unchecked power in the city.
Unchecked.
And can do whatever they want. Unchecked.
I like the unchecked part. It's like, yeah, just like a tiny little small text written clause. Unchecked.
It makes them it makes them the only. The king is also elected, technically. So it's the only elected, non-hereditary, absolute monarchy in the world. It just sounds like such a big dick move. And basically, the fun part.
The smallest country in the world, but yeah.
Yeah, the king and the Pope are the same person. But so the king makes a rule, and then the Pope kind of enforces it, but they're the same person. And the weird part is that the Vatican is technically a company. I don't really understand. It's kind of confusing. So it's technically a company, and which is the Holy See is the CEO. The person who sits there is the CEO of the company, and the company owns the city. So the passports are effectively just a company made some passports, and people accept them around the world. It's not the country itself hasn't made them valid. The king doesn't do that. The Pope does. So then it doesn't make any sense. But it's really cool. Also, there's no people that actually are born citizens, because they're all, well, blokes, and they have to be appointed by the king to come in and do their work. There's about 500 of them. So it was, and this is the kind of the complete other end of the spectrum of monarchies from like the British monarchy, if you know what I mean. So I just found it kind of interesting to go down that rabbit hole. Yes, I would highly recommend the CGP Grey video that explained it to me, and it was very funny. So in the end, I decided I'm not so against the monarchy, really, considering there are other things we do that cost a hell of a lot of money. I just went past a protest today of the new high-speed rail. The protesters are digging 100 feet tunnels underneath the park of Euston Station, I can't remember, and like to try and protest against this rail that's going to cost billions and billions and billions and
Yeah,
destroy loads of our forests and stuff. So there's other things we have to worry about more than the Queen.
At first I thought like, oh, is it going to be like something like connecting the north and the south a bit more? So maybe it'll be like, you know, high speed thing. So to London to like the north will be like no time, so therefore it's a better connection between the two. Do you know, like you just, you know, the whole country and Scotland, for instance, is more included rather than just the hub being down south and, you know, not. No, it'll knock off like 20 minutes or something like that, and it's kind of like people can just wait the 20 minutes rather than destroying loads and costing an absolute fortune.
Yeah, you think so, right? Yeah. Well, yeah, I was just saying to add to the Vatican thing that the scandal there, right? I thought that was where you were going to go with it. No, let's go. But we'll stay clear of scandals this episode. Yeah, could go to the whole Prince Andrew thing, but
Scandals.
Need a bit of less negativity. I mean, that sounds good. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to this episode on the Royals, and we will see you next time on No Idea Yet. Thank you very much.
Nice.
Best ending yet.
So thank you very much for listening. Even bigger thank you if you've made it this far to the end. If you have done and would like to send us anything, we've got follow us on Instagram at No Idea Yet Podcast. And if you have any ideas of anything you think we should talk about in the future, you can send us an email to noideayetpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.